My name is Manny. I'm from Jupiter, Florida, and I'm finishing up my master's with the sports management program this summer. I've been an FSU diehard my entire life. That's why I'm honored and excited to tell you about a campaign we have involving FSU Sports Analytics. I'm leading this initiative through the FSU Coaches Clubs to raise funds for several of our women's sports programs that were affected by COVID-19 budget cuts. That's why we need your support to keep sports science technology like Whoop bands, vert, and catapult vests on the field and in use. Investing in sports analytics is one of the best investments at this university. Whether we're maximizing the work rate of our players or resting them at key moments, it's all about working smarter, not harder. I hope you can join us in making FSU a leader in sports science. Support this campaign at fsucoachesclubs.com. And as always, go Noles.
Hey Manny, thanks for spending the time to join us today. We're grateful to have you. We've got some awesome questions for you today to get a little bit of background information on kind of how you got where you were today, your education and career path, what you actually do day to day in your role, and as well the future of your job and the industry as a whole.
Sounds great, Jackson. Thanks for having me.
Awesome. So if we could just start out a little bit around your education and your career path, give us just kind of that background information on where you went to school, what you studied for, and where you are today.
All right. So yeah, a little bit of background on me. Obviously, I'm a Seminole, go Noles. But I just want to get a little context on what happened after school, right? So I was one of those guys who I studied, and my first 2 years, I really didn't know what I liked or what I wanted to do. I knew I liked sports. I was always into sports, but I didn't really connect the two as like, okay, I can have a career in sports without like really being an athlete, right? I never really made that connection. I ended up having the first 2 years be exploratory, like to that level. I really did not know what I wanted to make a career out of. After that, I decided on business, and it was kind of like I had made a little bit of a safety net choice. I was interested in business. It was something that, my dad did. He had a business, and I just thought, it's kind of something I like, and it's a little bit safe, and that's something that, I'll pursue. After that, right, I had a little bit of a struggle after college. I did not really find a job for about a year, right? So I was working with my dad. I was working, here and there with other people that would let me, do some analytics for them or some business related jobs on the side, right? So this year was a little bit tough for me personally. I started thinking, why did I not do something that I loved in school? Why didn't I, follow sports? Why wasn't I more involved? And it was a little bit tough. I ended up finding a job in analytics in a media company, a very small media company that is really tailored to education. So they sell textbooks, and mostly textbooks. And I probably bored you already because it's textbooks. So it was a it was a really like a job that it made me feel like, okay, this is not it. I'm not really happy doing this. And then it crept up a lot of doubt, right? I was like, wow, I studied for 4 years and I ended up being in this job that I'm not sure that I like. And people around me, like the environment around me, was very much that. It was people who were not happy with their job, but kind of like got to a point where they were okay with that. So I was like, all right, this is something that I can't really continue. I'm going to spend my whole life doing this. So my job there was just basically like writing sales orders and doing analytics on the textbook market in Europe. Again, not great. After that, I found a position for ESPN, which was based in Miami, where I was living at the time. And it was really a small branch of the ESPN office. It was a small sales office dedicated to Latin America. So at this point, I was like, all right, this is my shot to combine the experience I have in business and the passion I have in sports, right? And this is really what I want people to kind of maybe get motivated by or find a little bit of, of a bright light at the end of the tunnel to say. It was something that I really pursued with a passion because I thought that was my only chance to kind of be in the sports world, right? I remember I literally slept like 2 hours on back-to-back days because they had sent me a project for me to work on. So I literally took days off of work of the current job that I had, and I spent 2 full days just working on this Excel PowerPoint project that they sent me. So I was at ESPN for about 2 years. I ended up getting the job. I spent 2 years there as an analyst, mostly on the sales side, right? So I was doing a lot of the ad sales requests and trying to close campaigns and deals across South America. This was great. I loved it. I felt like I was somewhere where I really, I could invest my time and be happy with the things that I was doing. The only problem with that was that it was a 1-year contract. I was a project employee, and the company policy was that you would only allow to be a project employee for 2 years. So after the second year, I had to, make a decision, try to move up in the company or try to find another role somewhere else. Obviously, I want to stay at ESPN. To me, that was a dream come true. A little kid watching ESPN all the time. I couldn't make that happen, but I did find the opportunity in CNN, which to me was interesting, not because of the news part of the job or the organization itself. I was really mostly interested in staying within the digital market. So in ESPN, I was really doing analytics for TV and digital. And I really had that mentality that TV was not going to be, the future, or I wanted to be in the environment that was constantly changing, which was digital. So that's what attracted me about CNN, a massive company with 100+ million, monthly users. I thought, okay, if I can go to the domestic side and learn about domestic digital, I can really, make the transition after with a lot more knowledge and get back to the sports side that I love, I know I'm rambling, but I'm gonna keep going. After that, I did not love the role there. For me personally, it was a little bit of a tough transition to go from sports to news. And I was like, okay, I need to do it again. I need to go back to sports. And Turner Sports is a branch of Warner Media. And so Warner Media is also the parent company of CNN. And so it was a smooth transition for me to go from CNN to my current role at Turner Sports / NBA Digital that I'm doing now.
That's awesome. So actually, that's a running theme of our speakers for this year. No one really had a degree in analytics. Your degree was a bachelor's of business administration, I believe, with a specialty in marketing and management. How do you feel like that set you apart from other people who you have worked with? Do you feel like you were able to really complete your duties fully without having that background in analytics, or do you think maybe having that degree would have given you an extra edge?
Yeah, I definitely think that it would have given me an extra edge just because all right, so the analytics is something that you kind of could pick up quickly, but maybe the context of the environment and the world that it lives under changes really fast. So that I think would have helped me kind of stay in the loop of what's important, what really drives viewership a little bit better if I would have started. But again, I think it's something that people can make the transition to. As you said, a lot of people you've spoken to have said the same thing.
Absolutely. Continuing on with the theme of education, what do you feel like your degree or professional experience early on in your career didn't prepare you for, and how have you been able to kind of hone that experience and learn on the job?
I think maybe I wasn't prepared for the speed of the job. In school, I was one of those people that I'm sure many can relate. Wait a little bit to do your stuff, maybe a little bit last minute here and there. That's something that you cannot do in this type of world where people need insights so fast. People need to validate, whether a product is performing well. Things happen quickly, and there's a lot of stakeholders to support, a lot of long-term projects, a lot of short-term ad hoc requests that we get. And I think just the speed of that is something that you can't learn in school.
Absolutely. And this is something you touched on a little bit earlier as well. But what was really your dream after graduating? What was your dream job and where did you want to go? And did you really expect to end up where you are today?
I think at that point, once you graduate, at least for me, it's hard for me to sit here and say what my dream was at that point because it combines two things, right? It combines what I think was attainable at the time, which, I didn't have that confidence to think that, maybe I could get to this point or that to have a dream necessarily. So at that point, I just wanted to have a job that I liked at that point. That's how simple it was. And logically, sports is what I love. So the two and two came together. And no, honestly,
Absolutely.
I did not expect to be here working with a company like Turner Sports, just because the impact I had with that first job was so strong that it could have easily led me to believing that was it, that I was gonna have jobs that, were okay and I was gonna be okay with that.
Absolutely. And again, you're hitting on another really great theme that a lot of our speakers have kind of pointed out as well, that really being satisfied with your job and having enjoyment with what you do every day is really the key piece for them. So jumping into a little bit more of what you do in your current role, I'd love to get an idea of what you do day to day, what a typical day looks like for you. And if you wouldn't mind for us, break down what your actual title, what your role means. So senior analyst for data strategy and insights.
Absolutely. So my title really has to do more with the product and content side. So our team is 3 people, director and 2 analysts. And the other analyst, really my coworker, she handles a lot more of the technical side, a little bit more of the back end of the data implementation. And I really deal a lot more with the audience and viewership metrics that come with, product to help make product decisions and content decisions. In
Awesome.
terms of what my day-to-day job looks like, data is really, there's a lot of different variables to it, right? And in today's world, people wouldn't really understand, but data comes from, there's subscriber data, there's revenue data, there's audience data, there is live video data. All these really come from separate sources. And my job is really to use all these different data points and create insights that really make the data strategy teams, product and content make decisions. So this really entails, weekly, monthly, daily reporting, making sure that all the teams understand what KPIs really they should be looking at, because sometimes they're really not really getting what they think they should out of a metric. So I'll give you an example, right? Let's say the League Pass product team is trying to understand viewership consumptions, right? They really, in their head, they might think, okay, let me just get the video star metric so we can understand that, right? But maybe it's worth pushing back and asking, is this the right metric? Is this what really is going to give you value that you need? Because there's certain aspects that they might not understand, right? A user could be dropped out of a stream for technical reasons, come back 3-4 times, and that might look like an inflated number of video starts that is not really a fair way to evaluate whether the product, was good or bad. It's just there's other context that really is my job to provide.
That's awesome. If we could drill down a little bit more into that data, I'd love, you kind of already gave us an overview of the data you use and kind of those insights you provide. But is the data that you're using very structured and very clean all the time, or are you having to go in and manipulate that data and kind of massage it into the way you want it?
Data clean all the time. Oh man, I am afraid that is not the case. It has gotten a lot better. And when I first started at this role, that was really something that came up a lot. It's like, don't use this variable, use that. Oh, add these two. Oh, maybe this one is not complete. There's certain aspects on the back end, on the implementation side that are a little bit tricky. And I'm going to get ahead of it right now. And I know you're going to ask a question about like the future of the industry.
Totally
And
fine.
I know that AI, things like that are on everybody's mind, things that could get automated, definitely companies will choose that. But there's things that really are hard for that to capture in the context of what I just referenced, which is the implementation side and really what each metric really means. That is something that is more manual than people oriented, I think.
Absolutely, and we will touch on that as well. But I think that's a really great point that you bring up. Data, when it's clean, when it's in the right format, you can get some really great insights really easily. But at least in my experience, a large part of the role is coming up with the data, sourcing it, cleaning it, and kind of getting it into the shape and format that you want.
Absolutely.
So speaking again a little bit more about the data, where do you actually get your data? Are you do you use internal kind of databases and tools like that? Or are you just going out and Googling stuff and kind of transferring that to a spreadsheet? Give us a little bit more insight on that process.
Yeah, well, transferring to a spreadsheet manually, hopefully, thankfully, I'm out of that stage. No, at this point, there's a lot of different data sources like I referenced before. It's like if you want competitive data, you can go to third-party sources like ComScore, SimilarWeb. Internal data, we have Adobe for mostly audience size. Live video data comes from other sources too, like Conviva, Endeavor. And then really, since there's so much influx of data coming from so many different sources, there's aggregators like Snowflake and Looker that really function as tools in which we can build dashboards and do analysis that encompass the entire flow of data. So that really helps us understand the user journey a little bit better. Like I said, from purchase data to subscriber data to when the user downloads the app, what the user journey really is to maybe becoming a live subscriber or,
Absolutely. So when speaking about kind of data and the insights you provide, could you give us a little bit more, or rather, holistic view of the insights you provide and who actually uses it? Is it internal people, external customers?
Yeah, so it would be internal stakeholders, like mostly the product and content teams would be the people who I help the most, and the data strategy team. So like I'll give you an example. Right now, there's new products that are being evaluated, such as next gen kind of features, which are alternate streams for a product like NBA TV and League Pass. So right now, there's a lot going on in terms of what can we do better in terms of products for the user, and encompassing things that are going on in society, like maybe something like gambling, maybe like an alternative streams that involves an influencer of some sort, maybe a social media influencer, or different types of streams in which I like being involved in that area, because it's something that's constantly evolving, and we can't just think, all right, people are going to want to consume the game the same way and listen to the commentators default. No, because the people are going to really, in terms of theory, we're expecting people to kind of want to consume the game differently.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And so speaking about the specific insights you provide, when the stakeholders in your organization use those insights, what do they actually do with it? What actions are they able to take on the insights you provide?
I guess it goes back to, for the example, just to keep it on the same playing field, the next gen features that we analyze, really, there's a budget for it, and it's something that the league and Turner Sports have been trying to push forward and grow. But maybe if on our end we kind of don't see the engagement from the audience, from the users, maybe we could make an argument for or against investing what is invested into new features like alternate streams.
Awesome. And this was already something that you touched on just a little bit. You said your team is really a manager and 2 analysts. Who else, if anyone, do you collaborate with internally? Do you have any cross-functional teams or anything like that?
Yeah, no, it's full of cross-functional communicating across the team. So the small team that I referenced was really the digital side. On digital analytics team, there's the linear analytics team, and we all fall under the data strategy and insights umbrella. We support other teams like product, content, marketing, and sales.
Awesome. Diving just a little bit deeper into your individual role as well, how are you personally measured in the organization? How would you define success in your actual role?
I think getting the right insights in front of the right people is just the what you need to do, kind of like the bare minimum. So it starts with that. It starts with making sure that everybody understands how to value the data. And I think how I would measure myself is just what I referenced in the beginning. Speed is important. Accuracy, it's very detail oriented, having to make sure all the numbers are correct. They're reported on through PR, they're given to sales to close campaigns. There's a lot of aspects to what people do with these numbers, and accuracy is, as important as anything.
Absolutely. One question I've been asking as well. This is a little bit different for you since your customers, quote, quote, are internal, but how do you know when your customers are happy? How do you know when you're providing good insight? Is there any way that they're able to provide feedback to you?
Yeah, we do have a lot of internal communication with all the separate teams across the business. We do ask constantly to reevaluate and reframe, what we're trying to get to, what our KPIs really are that we should be using to measure the success of the business. And so we have a lot of communication with those teams. And yeah, I mean, without that, we would get stagnant, and I don't think we would be as agile and quick.
Absolutely. Could you also walk us through some of the analytics tools that you use day to day, whether it's software or internal tools or anything like Excel or Python?
Yeah, so when I started at ESPN, I learned Tableau there, and I've kind of liked Tableau ever since. At CNN, they leveraged different tools. They didn't really use Tableau as much, but now back here at Turner Sports, to get internal data, we use Adobe Analytics, and Tableau really helps kind of put everything together from all the other sources of data as well.
Absolutely. So switching gears a little bit, but still kind of sticking with that same theme of analysis tools, what would you say is the current state of the art in your field? And do you see anything on the horizon that would suggest that that's going to change in the near future?
Yeah, I mean, everything is changing. Everything is changing. So I think currently there's going to be a lot more analysis done for sure via artificial intelligence. I'm not too well versed in that area, so I can't speak as much to it. But yeah, I mean, it's definitely something that is eye-opening, just how everything has been evolving so quickly. Yeah.
Absolutely. So I know you are also working from home. Were you working remotely before COVID started?
No, I was not. Working from home has definitely been a shock to the system. At first,
Absolutely.
I was a little bit on the fence about it. I missed going to the office. Then I kind of flipped, and I started getting used to all the benefits of working from home. And I'm kind of in the middle now. I ended up moving back down to Miami because I'm originally from Miami. Turner Sports is based in Atlanta, so I've been here ever since the pandemic, and we'll see how it goes.
Absolutely. Well, how has working remotely impacted how you do your job? Is there any difference in how you're able to meet and collaborate with teams, or do you feel like being home has maybe provided you with a little more kind of ability to focus deeply on what you're doing without interruptions, or not?
Yes and no. I think that I'm definitely missing that interaction that you get, being in the office, passing by the different teams, and you kind of start to learn a little bit more about what everybody's doing. When it's work from home, you really have to be more direct with everything, and it's more like a one-on-one relationship. When you're at the office, it's kind of, you get a little bit more from everybody, and you don't really have to reach out necessarily directly the way you do now. So I mean, in terms of productivity, I think definitely the office suits me better. And I mean, I look forward to see where this goes.
Awesome. And this was something you already touched on a little bit earlier, but I would like to dive just a little bit deeper. How do you think AI and machine learning might change the way you do your job? I know you already spoke to kind of the key element of having a human somewhere in the chain to be able to really identify key data points and understand what works and what doesn't.
So really, at this point, I'm kind of looking at it more in terms of how AI could help make products better rather than how AI could make my job easier or better, because I'm sure that's going to come. And I think that I could give you an example on the AI helping the product. There's something in the industry that's been happening that you're probably aware of in terms of how users are consuming different content. And in this case, something like maybe short form video, right? Like you going to a site or going to the app to just consume like a highlight or a clip here. That's been a little bit transitioned over, if I can say, to social media or other outlets in which people kind of do this quick consumption of content. So that's what I'm referring to in terms of AI. There's companies that have seen this issue, right? Third-party vendors, and they're using AI to kind of sell to publishers like Turner Sports and NFL and other media publishers, a way to kind of increase viewership to these content, categories and pieces. An example, in the short form video world that I mentioned, in which everything is kind of shifting down from a website and app viewership consumption, they found a way to kind of use AI to instill the image or a little GIF on the video so that it captures the most exciting part of that video automatically, and it entices the user to kind of capture that quick glimpse of the video and convert them into users. And that has been slightly successful, but there is a little bit of a balance there. Like how much more could that really drive viewers when they're always going to have the other ways to consume that content. But it's interesting. I've really been approaching it more from that point of view in terms of how we could improve the content rather than how they're gonna do my job better in 10 years.
Absolutely, and I can kind of show my bias just a little bit here, but I'm in kind of the data analytics world. That's where my degree is, and there's a lot of the human element that is required, like you said, from taking the data in and really understanding what's important to producing the final product too. And I don't see a computer being able to do that full stack from start to end anytime soon.
I agree.
So kind of getting a view of the industry as a whole, are there any organizations who do what you guys do, or are you pretty unique in this space?
In terms of within the Turner sports team, or in terms
Absolutely, or I should say more of your role specifically. Do you know of any other really big players that are kind of setting the bar?
In my company specifically, there are other analytics teams for other brands within Warner Media, like HBO Max, Bleacher Report. Those are other brands within the same company. And with this relationship that Turner Sports has with the NBA, there are other teams within the NBA that do similar functions tailored more towards the NBA digital side as opposed to the Turner Sports side. But yeah, in terms of the Turner Sports, NBA D analytics, yes, it's us.
Awesome. So as we kind of begin to wrap up, I would love to hear any words of advice for students who are kind of just entering the professional world. If you could think on back to when you were just jumping into your role, what advice would you give specifically in the area of analytics or otherwise just as a whole?
Yeah, as a whole, I'm definitely one of those guys that will preach, to the kids, do what you like, follow your passion, all that. And I know that it gets to points where you might not think that is something that is feasible or doable or attainable at all. And that's okay, that's okay. As long as you kind of keep your eye on the ball, you have to, and you really can't settle. I know that sounds like the old guy telling the young kid, guys, it's the same old speech. I understand, but this is something that really impacted me working at that small company, technical company that I was not passionate for. I remember having a conversation with someone there, and I told them, are you happy? Like, are you happy? Is this something that you enjoy? And he literally looked at me and he said, not everybody gets to do what they love. And that was something to me like, that's not okay. If you went to school, if you put in the work, you should be rewarded at least with that, at least with the feeling that you're doing something that you enjoy. And in terms of data analytics, yeah, I think that it's such a fulfilling thing for me to be involved, in the development of products that I personally use every day. So it really is something that drives me to open up my app and see and think from a user perspective. Okay, like, this is how I would consume this content, this is what I came here for, and then be able to apply that, on the business side to kind of make that better for people like me who use it every day. That's something that fulfills me. It's been great.
Awesome. And again, with that piece of doing what you enjoy, I really could not agree more. We've got one last final question for you. This is something we've been asking all the speakers, and it is definitely a little bit out of left field, not specifically within your role or within work, but as a whole, what are you most excited for about the future? And again, doesn't have to specifically be within the area of analytics or your current role, but what gets you excited and what kind of gets you out of bed in the morning?
So right now, you caught me at a good time, because what gets me excited right now is digital collectibles, the NFTs.
Okay.
I know that is something that has been going around right now. And, I'm somebody that is generally pretty patient as an analyst researcher. I do my research on stuff. I sit back, I can't, but with this, I really do I feel like it's very much the future. It's very much something that I think, artists and content creators are going to leverage. And I definitely want to be a part of that. So an example would be NBA Top Shot, collectibles like that, So Rare. These are sites that are managed to combine, the digital evolution with crypto and assets like that with, the old timey kind of collectible, way of doing things with trading cards and things like that. But yeah, I think digital NFTs are something that, apart from analytics or my role at my job, I think it's something that is really interesting.
It's actually very interesting that you hit upon that. I am very, very new in kind of the knowledge world of NFTs, but the way I see it now, it is mostly around obviously they're digital assets, but mostly around sports clips and things like that. But you also spoke to kind of how it can benefit artists and content creators. Could you speak to that just a little bit more?
Yeah, so there are a lot of sites right now, like Nifty Gateway, things like that, that really act as auction houses for digital art. So I think it just gives the artist a lot more power at this point. And for example, if you create a painting, I mean, it's hard to verify that it's yours. It's hard to ship it if it's stained. There's a lot of different things. The same thing with a collectible card. Like, that whole process in the middle is just cut completely by this blockchain technology, which each piece of work lives in the blockchain to a unique number that will always be that. And there will always be only 200 of this, for example, or 100 of this. It's never going to come back. And that rarity really gives a demand. And I think if I was an artist right now, I would be licking my chops to get into this. I don't know if you saw it. Even when I say artists, I mean basically everything from painters or digital artists in this case to recording artists. Like The Weeknd, a week ago, I think he dropped an NFT song, right? One of one. And I think that could really help artists take power from the record labels, all that. I'm not too savvy with the music business, but I can definitely see that happening.
Absolutely hilarious you say that too. One of the biggest stories that I've seen in the news recently is that I believe it was Salvador Mundi painting that was supposedly very real and paid $500 million for it, and it turned out to be fake. So I'm sure they would have loved to have an NFT to go along with that one as well.
There you go. You see, I'm on track.
Alrighty, Manny. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to be with us today and answer these questions. You've provided some awesome insight that I'm sure our students are going to be really excited for.
I'm so happy to do this with you. Thank you so much. I'm a lifelong Seminole fan, and I hope everybody can get a little bit out of this.
Absolutely. Thank you again. Go Noles.
Thank you.